ClimateGate exploding as the president heads to Copenhagen. Welcome, everyone. I'm Stuart Varney in for Neil Cavuto. This is your world. More damaging emails surfacing. Thousands more being sifted through as we speak as the science behind global warming faces its biggest challenge ever. And now, calls on NASA to reveal everything it knows. All this as the president announces he'll be heading to Copenhagen next month for a high-stakes global summit meeting. And Democrats push for costly cap-and-trade legislation aimed at reducing greenhouse gases. But will ClimateGate kill cap-and-trade? My next guest says this is no time to back down. Steve Laser is an editor for opednews.com. Steve, good to see you again.
Great seeing you, Stuart.
Now, you think we should plow ahead with cap-and-trade. But wait a minute. Before you get started, let me tell you this. Public opinion is moving against you. These emails demonstrate data manipulation, undermining the science of global warming. And number three, the cost of cap-and-trade and Copenhagen would be astronomical. You really want to push ahead given that?
Well, let me tell you regarding those emails, Stuart, if you take the contents of anybody's email, you take a few excerpts out of a few sentences, out of thousands of emails, you can justify and say that proves any conspiracy out there. It does not affect that there's a global consensus on climate change, and I'll tell you, you look at most...
Science isn't easy.
It absolutely is. If you take a look at most scientific and university institutions out there, not just U.S., you talk about the University of Heidelberg in Germany, the Sorbonne in France,
we've had
Harvard, MIT,
so many times.
Caltech.
The number of climatologists who are saying there's a fault in climate warming, global warming.
They're a thimbleful. Compared to a bucketful of the ones who say that there is a consensus. You know what I want to know, Stuart?
I want to know... I tell you, I want to talk about cost for a second.
Go ahead.
We've got to talk about cost. Cost of climate to cost of Copenhagen, cost of cap-and-trade. I want you to look into that camera. Camera number 2.
Sure.
I want you to say to our audience that you approve of America sending tens of billions of dollars every year to developing countries so that they can go green. That's what we're going to agree to at Copenhagen. I want you to look into that camera and say, yes, we should do this. Democrats are behind it. Camera 2, there it is.
That's not the truth, Stuart. The CBO has scored cap-and-trade, and that is absolutely not true.
I'm not talking cap-and-trade for a minute. I'm talking Copenhagen.
Right.
The developing world wants tens of billions of dollars every year from us so that they can go green. And President Obama is moving towards an agreement that he will give that money. Again, camera 2, look into it and say, that's fine with me.
That's absolutely not the truth. And I'll tell you, there are 6 countries currently doing this right now. There's Germany, Sweden, Denmark, and the UK. Their economies are recovering from the global recession faster than ours are, Stuart.
They're prepared
so for all intents and purposes, you know what
you want American money to do this.
There's an economic Laffer curve associated with doing the right thing on climate change.
Giving money to developing world led by India is the right thing for our economy?
That is an incorrect interpretation of what's going to happen.
Okay, listen to this. The president wants is set targets. He wants to lower emissions by 30% from the 2005 levels by the year 2025. Impossible. It's not going to happen. It's pie in the sky daydreaming, and you know it.
No, it's not. It's you know what? In those countries that I mentioned earlier, they have achieved those things.
No, they've missed their goals.
They have absolutely achieved those
Europe
things.
has missed its goals.
They have not missed their goals.
Sorry, I'm a European. I know these things. Europe has
but you live here now just like I do, Stuart.
I'm in very close touch. They missed their goals. This is an extremely ambitious goal. If it were to be fulfilled, it would ruin the American economy.
It would, every piece of data that you analyze absolutely contradicts what you just said. It absolutely contradicts what you just said. There's less than a $15 billion impact, for instance, to the federal government over 10 years, to the budget deficit over 10 years. The average household would see less than a $175 increase in their energy prices per year by 2020.
A very interesting promise. I want to get back to the emails for a second. Can we just take a quick look? I believe it's email number 5. These are the hacked emails, conversations amongst climatologists. Listen to this, Steve. I'm going to read it. Try and change the received date. Don't give those skeptics something to amuse themselves with. That's data manipulation, trickery.
You know what? I'm sure if you looked into both of our emails, Stuart, you could justify any conspiracy that you want.
I don't think so.
Absolutely. You know what I want to know? I want to know how deep the conspiracy goes for global warming deniers, And is it going to somehow involve the Illuminati or Bigfoot at some point?
Put a conspiracy on the air.
You put a small excerpt of one sentence out of thousands of emails.
Okay, you put another one up, will you, please?
Yeah.
Pam, let's have a look at another one. It makes the point.
I've seen all all of
the
these,
process
Stuart.
of trying to persuade Siemens, a company with 500,000 employees in 91 countries, to donate me a little cash to do some CO2 measurements here in the UK. Looking promising. So the last thing I need is news articles calling into question observed temperature increases. The guy's taking money to manipulate the statistics. That's not a conspiracy. That's not made up. That's not a brief item separated out to make the case. That's the truth.
Again, Stuart, one sentence. You know, I looked at one sentence just to give you a perspective. I looked at one of the abstinent czars under George W. Bush's, one of his sentences. He said he was going to go to Haiti and teach the prostitutes there some skills. That's an excerpt taken out of a sentence of the abstinence czar of George W. Bush.
I wondered how long it would be before you got back to George W. Bush.
You want to take some crazy excerpts? You can do it all day long with anybody.
I will. I've got all day. Look at this. In an odd way, this is cheering news. That's about the possible death of a climate skeptic. What? What's going on?
You know what I would do?
Just another sentence, taken at random?
I'll make you a deal, Stuart. They're going to do an investigation of this in the UK. I will buy you a steak dinner anywhere you want in New York City if this is not completely debunked by the investigation.
Okay, you're on. Wait a second. Real fast. Pam, I just want to roll this TV commercial that is running in Britain right now. It is gruesome. It's put on the air by the Greenies. It's, I've got to show you this. You've got to look at this, Steve. This is polar bears falling out of the sky, being impaled on buildings with the sound of airlines in the background. It's a 9/11 kind of thing. This is what the Greenies are reduced to putting on European television. I say that is a sign of desperation. It is a disgrace. I want your opinion on that.
I am not going to defend that. That is absolutely over the top.
Steve, at long last, we have agreement. Steve Laser, thank you very much indeed. We appreciate being with us.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Is NASA cooking the books on climate control? My next guest wants to know. He just filed a notice of intent to sue NASA for documents requested under the Freedom of Information Act. Chris Horner is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He's the author of Red Hot Lies, How Global Warming Alarmists Use Threats, Fraud and Deception to Keep You Misinformed. And by the way, we contacted NASA and were unable to get a statement at this time. Steve, welcome to the program. I'm going to refer to these emails that have been hacked into. You've seen them. Is there anything in them that indicates what NASA might be concealing or hiding that you want to know about?
It's funny, Stuart, you received the same response from NASA that we've received for 3 years. They don't want to comply with the law, just like the emails you're discussing, which, by the way, contrary to your previous guess, are fully exposed in full context with the full email threads attached. And you can't explain away tricks to hide temperature decline.
So, Chris, what do you think? What do you think NASA has? What documentation do you think that NASA has that's in some way damning?
Very specifically, I'm trying to tell you, very specifically, in August of 2007, NASA very quietly corrected their U.S. historical temperature record, making the 1930s the warmest decade, not this decade or the 90s. And all of those hysterical press releases they had issued from the year 2000 onward, which escalated with the presidency of George W. Bush, were pulled down. There was no press release saying all of the hysteria we have worked with the New York Times and Washington Post in generating is no longer true. They simply pulled them down. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to see the internal discussions of their response to the Canadian statistician who reviewed their data, discovered to be charitable, that they'd failed to perform a very basic statistical function. What was their response, whether they should make the correction, whether they should respond to it, what the fallout might be, and so on. They don't want to provide those records. They're very similar to the package that has been revealed. I don't believe it's a hacker. I think it's a whistleblower in the UK, all addressing very similar questions. There's actually 3 results, Stuart. Three FOIA requests we have filed notice of intent to sue on.
We're calling this ClimateGate. I'm inclined to believe that this is a big deal in the sense that it may reverse the momentum. The climate chaos guys seem to have had the momentum running for them. They've dominated the media. Do you think that this is big enough to reverse direction of public opinion?
Well, it shows falsified results. The results are the premise of the Kyoto Treaty, the Kyoto II Treaty, cap and trade, EPA's threat to go through the back door with cap and trade. It shows a coordinated effort to subvert and violate numerous transparency laws. And it also shows on its face an apparent intent to defraud the taxpayer. But other than that, no, I don't think it's a very big deal at all. This is the entirety of the case. The ship's taking water heavily. It should be the end of it. Rightly, we at least stay any further U.S. participation, no further international commitments, no cap and trade, and so on. Because remember, we need an investigation because these scientists believe their name has been wrongly sullied. They insist there's no there. Surely they want an investigation to clear their name. I'm all for it.
Chris Horner, we thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a quick programming note.